What time is it? It's Packard Pokes At time. Hat? Check. Shirt? Check. Pants? Optional. Mug? Double check. Check us out at cafepress.com/PackardPokesAt where you can get all this great merchandise and more.
Do you like Packard Pokes At and want to hear it on demand and on the go? Download the free app today at Stitcher.com. Available on iOS, Android, Nook, and iPad.
This is Packard Pokes At, and I'm poking at your news. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another fine edition of Packard Pokes At. I am your immutable and unmutable host, Packard Sonic, and joining us tonight from the far East Coast is Joe Unseen.
I know. You must think I'm crazy. But there's a man outside on the wing of the plane. You must tell the captain.
Twilight Zone.
Classic.
Yeah, there's a classic Twilight Zone with William Shatner was in that particular part there, if I remember correctly.
The best is when they drag him away on the stretcher. Spoilers. And he's like, they're like he's gone crazy. And then they pan the camera up, and you see the engine cowling is actually ripped up and clawed.
Right.
Like, oh no.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't think you have to worry about spoilers because that show and that episode particularly is like over 40 years old. So
I know. I live by the it's not a spoiler if it's more than 2 years old rule.
Right.
I mean, with the absolute exception of like a super twist ending. Like if somebody says, "Oh, I never saw The Sixth Sense before," you don't like just give it up to them, even though that movie is mad old.
Oh, you mean the
you
part
just say like, "Oh, just watch it and we'll talk afterwards." But if you're sitting there talking about like how a TV show from 40 years ago ended, that's not spoilers.
Right. Oh yeah, in that movie, you mean where he finds out that he's actually a roller coaster, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He's an upside down roller coaster in a wooden roller coaster world. It's crazy.
I know, it's just nuts. Anyway, we got some good stories for you tonight, so let's get on to our first topic for this evening. In Paraguay, there is a very strong Catholic presence there, a very religious presence there anyway. There's a lot of people that, like here in the United States, they are very anti-abortion and very anti-choice people. They don't care once the baby's born. They don't care. Just get the fuck out of my face. Don't ask for money. Don't ask for help. We just want to make sure once you're pregnant, you just give birth. And I was mentioning Paraguay there. They have that mentality. In fact, they have such a mentality of that if you wanted to get an abortion because of her health problems or whatever, because they think your doctor says you're not going to be able to make it if you try to give birth, they actually have to submit a form to the government, and then the government says you can get one or you can't. That is how fucked up this country is. In fact, the reason why we're discussing this particular fucked up people down there is because there was a 10-year-old girl. She's pregnant. She's over 21 weeks pregnant, and she was raped by her stepfather. The mother took her into the doctor because she was having abdomen pains. And once they found out that she had been raped, then they not only arrested the mother, but they also arrested the 10-year-old. And they did not flat out have denied.
Did they arrest the 10-year-old?
Yeah, as far as I know that they did. It's either that or they will arrest the doctors for sure.
I think the mother did get arrested. I mean, I might be mistaken, but I think the mom did get in trouble for suggesting that they abort the baby.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry. You're right. I forgot about that part. Yeah, she was arrested, and but if the doctor had attempted this abortion without permission, he would be arrested as well. That's the kind of fucked up stuff that Republicans in this country want. They want the doctors arrested if somebody goes and tries to have an abortion done. Did you have any additional thoughts on this, Joe?
Yeah, I first heard of this our old friend Wizard of Todd shared a meme from Amnesty International. I guess they're banging the drum and trying to call attention to this because Amnesty International is saying that this is tantamount to torture.
Right.
That's where I first heard of it, and then I read this article and I was just floored. I was like, whoa, and I felt rage Vani beating deep inside, you know.
Yeah, Vani rage.
Vani rage. She would get really going when it came to this issue, and
oh yeah.
And so without rehashing all of what Vani would have said about a woman's body and her choice, and the government has no say between a doctor and a woman. This is exactly what happens when religion has way too much control in government.
Absolutely, it does.
Like, I was thinking today about how I heard once that a lot of the GIs that are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan have a much more greater appreciation for the separation of church and state because they've actually been to countries where that is non-existent.
Yeah.
They've actually gone to countries where they've seen what it's like when religion runs the government.
Yeah.
And so when they come back here, they're like, yo, no.
Yeah.
In these South American countries like Paraguay, and the article listed a few others, there's like Chile and stuff. It's just straight up illegal to get an abortion no matter what, even if the mother's life is in danger.
Yeah. And you know the
it
thing
does not matter. She could die, the baby could die, everybody could die. It does not matter.
Right.
No abortion. Nothing.
Right. Yeah, that I was going to say that because this girl is 10 years old, and the psychological and physical problems this girl will have if she is forced to be a mother at 10 years old. I mean, the body, even the article here says the risk of complications during childbirth is exponentially higher in girls under age 15, according to the World Health Organization. Maternal mortality is the leading cause of death for adolescent girls in developing countries. So they've done these studies. They know that a child, and she is a child, under a certain age.
She's 10 years old.
Yes, exactly. She's 10 years old. She's pregnant. She can't give birth. Even let's just say that just for fun, let's say that she does have to carry this child to term. That child has a very low chance of even surviving the birth at all, much less both of them.
And the woman also could die, or the woman, the child, the little girl, could also die. And if she survives, her body could be permanently damaged from the experience.
Exactly. We had a comment from Dawkins Dog. He says, Packard, there's Christians in America on Facebook arguing that she should be forced to keep it. It's a sickening read. And I agree with him. That is a sickening thing to hear. These so-called loving Christians want to force a child to give birth. If you think that you need to have a child give birth, you're a fucking sicko. Did you have any additional thoughts on that, Joe?
No, I agree. I mean, the article goes on and says that there's another girl in Paraguay. She's 12.
Yeah.
And she was raped by her father, and it's straight up incest. The 10-year-old girl was raped by her stepfather.
Right.
The 12-year-old girl was raped by her father. Her father is now serving a 12-year prison sentence. So they actually arrested the guy that raped the little girl and put him in prison, which is good. That's a good thing.
Yes.
But it's not all the way good thing because they're not letting her have an abortion either, and they're actually still deciding on that one. Like, well, what do we do about this? The government shouldn't have any say in this. The doctors shouldn't have to ask permission for this. It's the woman's decision. It's the doctor's decision. And in this case, it's a minor, so it's really, the parent is involved. Right. The mother is involved. The mother of the child. Not the fetus.
You know what this reminds me of is a couple years back. Remember they had that lady that was over in Ireland. She wanted that child. She did want the child. She was obviously old enough, but because there was a complication with the birth, and they had to wait for the baby to actually die inside her before they could do the abortion because of the religious laws there. The woman actually died. They could have just gotten rid of the fetus or whatever it was, at that age, and removed it, and she could have gone on to have more children. But instead, they decided this thing's heartbeat was more important than the woman carrying it.
Than the life or the rights of the woman.
Right. Yeah.
And again, Ireland, another religious country, another religious government, more religious laws.
Yep. And
that's what you get when they mix.
Yeah. And speaking of other governments in that regard, Texas. because they think they are their own government, apparently.
Well, aren't they?
Well, I mean, they think they're their own country, I should say.
The United States of Texas?
The United States of Texas, yeah. Because there was a lady that was down there. She had some kind of accident or something, but she found out she was pregnant not long before that. The father said, let her die. But Rick Perry got involved, and he said, no, we want this woman to stay alive, even though she's clinically brain dead, and they wanted her to just use her as an incubator. And the doctors basically had to fight that one.
And that's also wrong, because she was an EMT, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And she had a living will. Her last wishes were, I don't want to be kept alive in a vegetative state. I don't want to be on life support. I just want, if I'm not gonna recover, I just want to be allowed to die.
Right.
And they were keeping her alive because she had a fetus in her, and the fetus wasn't even fully viable. It was if it survived at all, it was going to be severely handicapped.
Yes.
And so, it's just they're letting their beliefs get in the way of reason.
Yeah. And no, you're right. They let their beliefs get in the way, but in the long and short of it, they had to let her go because the courts finally ruled, say, hey, what you did, Perry, was fucking wrong. Mm-hmm. And you got to let she had a living will. She had a will, mm-hmm. and you have to let her make her own decisions. So, and we had a comment from the chat room here. Torben said his wife just told him that 30% of all kids are born from C-section. I don't think even a C-section in this case would help this child. I mean, obviously she's not old enough to carry the term.
I think if the 10-year-old girl carried the baby to term, the C-section would definitely be the way they would go.
They have to.
I mean, it would just be safer for everything involved. It's not like, you can expect a 10-year-old to go to Lamaze classes and I mean, this is so unrealistic. It's unbelievable that this is happening.
Yeah, because the baby's going to come out as big as her. I mean, pretty much,
I hope they string her stepfather up by his testicles.
Ouch. My ex-wife used to say stuff like that. And even now, just hearing it in my head, just like, ow, just... But I understand.
Did they
the emotion.
String her up by her testicles?
Yes, they strung her up by her testicles.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I'm sorry to bring that up then.
That's all right. No, but I mean, just the thought of it. I think that's inhumane all the way around. But I understand the sentiment of why you want that feeling. So.
Right. I'm sorry to speak on you there, but like you mentioned, Amnesty International
mm-hmm.
Has said that this is ongoing torture.
Right.
I mean, this little girl's body is not meant for this yet.
Right. And here it is,
it's
torture.
It's a product of a rape.
Yes.
There's physical and psychological reasons that this should not continue.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. It is torture for this child. What really bothers me is by the time they make a decision, it'll be too late anyway. Even if they said, yeah, you know what, in this case we'll let it go, but by that time it's too late. She has to carry it to term now anyway, which is usually the way religious people would like to play it. So this way they stretch it out as long as they fucking possibly can.
They stall.
Yeah, they stall. They stall and stonewall.
If they know that if the law has certain safeguards set in, like past this date, okay, past this date, not okay,
right.
Then they'll stall. They'll appeal it in court, and they'll just hope, okay, maybe we can get to go, so many days, and then boom, the law kicks in, and we'll be good.
Right. They should do is. This law should be modified that if the courts have not made a decision or whatever has not made a decision by that time, if the person who wanted the abortion and can still get it safely, then they should be allowed to get it anyway by automatic. I think that would solve a lot of problems. This way that the government can't, the governor or some right-wing group can't step in and say, well, we're going to block this for whatever reason, or they'll try to tie it up more in courts.
And since we're talking about this topic,
sure,
I'm going to bring up something Connie said because she lived in Canada.
Okay.
And in Canada, they have government health care system.
Yes.
Now, in the United States, there's this big issue about whether or not you can go to Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood, should they receive federal funding or not, because they provide abortions. And so there's a law that Planned Parenthood can't use any federal money to pay for abortions. It's against the law.
Right.
And people who are against abortion will sit there and say, oh, well, if you put the money in the pot, blah, 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 if you're keeping the lights on, it's still paying for abortions. It's like, no. money that is earmarked for this is spent on this. Money that's earmarked for that is spent on that. And they have to turn around and provide records proving it.
Right.
In Canada, the government pays for healthcare, and that is including abortions. If you're a woman living in Canada and you get pregnant and you do not want it, for whatever reason, you can just go to the government-provided healthcare clinic and say, "Doctor, I don't want to be pregnant anymore."
You know what
it's paid for by the government.
You know what they should do is they should get.
And nobody questions it. Nobody even says anything about it. It's just like, okay.
You know what they should do is find some way of getting this girl up to Canada. Just saying.
Yeah, when I was reading it and they were saying like the doctors are trying to figure out what options they have.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I thought was the same thing. They need to get this little girl on a plane and they need to fly her somewhere, anywhere, even like temporary asylum in Miami where they can rush her to a clinic, take care of it, and then send her home.
Right.
And she's a minor, so it's not like, they can put her in prison for this or anything. And it happened on foreign soil, so she'll be good. But I don't know. Hopefully some kind of resolution will come of this.
Yeah, Karn was saying in the chat room here, Joe, you're assuming that they still wouldn't prosecute her. He has a point they would.
That is an assumption. I am assuming that. That's correct. That's 100% correct.
Yeah, but he's right in that instance that they're assuming that that because you went to another country and got it done, and we already knew that you were pregnant.
Right. It depends on how how national laws affect international laws. Like I know here in the United States, if you're a business person and you go to another country and you accept a bribe of some kind, or you give a foreign official a bribe of some kind, and then you come back to the United States, you could be prosecuted for giving bribes. Right. Even if in the other country it's legal to give bribes to a public official. Right. So so it all depends on the laws and how it works and everything. But the first thing I thought was they need to get her out of there to save her life and then figure out what to do then. Right, exactly. Like if that government wants to put a 10-year-old girl in prison, then maybe she should be given political asylum.
Yes, I completely agree.
Teach me how to be sensible, logical, responsible.
And tonight we have our logical fallacy game. So let's bring up our question. Joe, let's see if you can get this one. It says, why should the senator account for irregularities in his expenses? After all, there are other senators who have done far worse things. Is this A, biased generalization, B, appeal to pity, C, straw man, or D, a red herring?
E, I have no fucking idea.
How about
it's not a straw man.
Okay.
I would say it's a false equivocation. It's like
that's not one of the choices here, though.
I know. It's if you're doing it and it's okay because other people are doing it, it's okay. Well, that's not the same thing. If it's illegal, it's illegal. No matter who's doing it, it's just one person's getting caught and the other person isn't. Right. What were the other choices?
Okay, we had A, biased generalization, B, appeal to pity, C, straw man, or D, a red herring.
I'd have to say it was A, generalization, because how do you know all the other people are also doing it if they're not getting caught? They're like, well, it's okay if I do it because everybody else is doing it. Well, if they're not getting caught doing it, then how do you know they're doing it? So it's got to be some kind of generalization, right?
Actually, in this case, wrong. It is D, red herring.
I have no idea what that means other than the Clue movie.
Well, it's a herring that's red. No.
Yeah, exactly. Like communism. Communism is just a red herring.
The red herring is then I have an excuse because everybody else is doing it around me.
I thought red herring meant false suspect.
Yeah, that too. A red herring is when you misdirect. There we go. Thank you. Right. There you go. They're misdirecting, basically, in this example. They're misdirecting.
So really there was no correct answer to this. Okay, got it.
No, it is actually the correct answer is D.
I say straw man.
No, it was actually D in this case. So Torvian said, don't look at me, look at them. Same kind of thing.
Well, that's just a red herring.
Yeah, that's right.
What if there's a really bad, crummy guy who's going to jail, but I know he's innocent?
Well, Bart, your Uncle Arthur used to have a saying. Shoot 'em all and let God sort 'em out. Unfortunately, one day he put his theory into practice. It took 75 federal marshals to bring him down. Now let's never speak of him again.
I love it.
Speaking of shootings, ISIS has taken credit for a shooting of a Draw Muhammad contest that was going on in Garland, Texas. They were featuring the controversial cartoons of the Muslim prophet Muhammad, and the details began to emerge from about the shooters. One of the suspects was identified as Elton Simpson by, well, that's the Simpsons there, by a federal law enforcement source, linked himself to ISIS in a tweet just before the attack. He was also apparently no stranger to federal investigators. In 2011, he was convicted of making a false statement, including international and domestic terrorism. So this guy was down there. He apparently one guard got shot, from what I understand, but he got shot like in the foot or the leg. He survived.
The ankle. You got
The
shot in
ankle. Ankle, yeah. That's still a pretty bad place to get hit. You know, it's a pivot point. So he's going to be out of commission for a while there. But at least no one died. At least no one died. You know, the only thing is, though, this whole thing was not set up because, you know, there's this Draw Muhammad contest that goes on the internet. You know, a lot of atheists get involved with this. There's this thing that we atheists do on a certain day. We do a Draw Muhammad thing, but it's just online, and a lot of people participate. A lot of people don't. That's fine. You don't have to participate, but it's damn funny. The people that were doing this, they are a hate group. They have been identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. The Sunday night event in Garland invited cartoonists to send caricatures of Muhammad. It was organized by the American Freedom Defense Initiative, considered an anti-Muslim group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, which tracks hate groups. The stuff that the atheists do, that's completely different, because the fact is we go after all religions. We don't just go after the Muslims. We don't just go after just the Jews. We go after all religions. This particular one, these are Christians, and they're going after them. It's like, okay, we can make fun of your religion, but you don't dare make fun of ours. Did you have any comments on this, Joe?
Yeah, there's a lot of things about this that, when I first heard of this, I heard, you know, a shooting in Texas, and I thought, well, another day in America, there's a shooting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I heard that there was a Draw Muhammad contest, and that the shooters might have been Muslim, and suddenly I was a lot more interested in the details of what was going on down there. And it's really unfortunate because, like you mentioned, there's a holiday on the internet every year. It's May 20th. It's coming up soon, called Everybody Draw Muhammad Day.
Right.
And it's not a hate or bigoted event. It's an expression of freedom of speech.
Right, exactly.
It's to support the cartoonists that have made cartoons of Muhammad, and then it caused outrage in Islamic countries. It's in support of the people who died at Charlie Hebdo.
Right.
It's to show that just because someone draws a picture, it doesn't mean that has to result in violence.
Right, exactly.
Now, this group in Texas, they're known for being very anti-Muslim.
Right.
And they love doing things that are anti-Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that some Muslims don't like the drawings of Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would intentionally hold these public events that were like contests, where they would invite people to come and have a contest who could draw the best picture of Muhammad.
Right.
And they were hoping for something to happen.
Right.
Because that would just make their day. And unfortunately, something happened. These two guys, whether they were connected to ISIS or not, I have no idea. I think that might be a stretch. Just because they said they were doesn't mean they were.
Well, there was also a video that came out shortly thereafter the attack, like several days later, from supposedly ISIS, saying that they were saying
and
that
of
they were
course
part of it.
ISIS would be like, yeah, of course they were with us, because then they could take credit for an attack on American soil.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Which is really convenient for them.
Yeah.
But, you know, were these guys actually in Iraq and Syria? Were these guys actually, you know, involved? I mean, they might have communicated over the internet, but does that mean an ISIS individual from Iraq and Syria made it to Texas and carried out an attack?
More. I would say most likely not. We had a comment here from Dawkins Dog. He said Packard, the stupid woman who organized it, justified it, saying it took down 2 terrorists who would have killed others if they had not provoked them.
Now, just because this is a hate group and they were doing it intentionally to piss off Muslims doesn't mean they don't have the right to do it.
Right.
They freedom of speech even extends to hate groups. So even though their motivation is different from the motivation of what goes on online, it doesn't matter. It's still protected. It doesn't mean that someone can pick up a gun and go after them because they're doing that.
Right. We had a comment from Karn, 33333. He says, I don't think most atheists, quote unquote, go after religion, but most atheists criticize beliefs they find ridiculous, which I'm fine with, even mine. And you know, that's what I mean by going after them. I mean, we criticize them. Not saying we go
criticize the idea, not the not necessarily the people.
Right.
Maybe sometimes the actions that the people take because of their beliefs.
Right.
But it's not a bigotry against the people. The people can have their religion all they want.
Absolutely.
They can believe whatever they want. They can worship whatever they want. They can express it however they want.
Right.
So long as they don't harm other people or
Right.
push it into the public arena or
That-
XYZ. You know?
Right. That's why I say we went after the religion. That's why I did not say we go after the people who believe the religion. There's a fine line between the two. If you want to believe something, you want to believe you're a ham sandwich, you can believe it all you want. But as soon as you start pushing your beliefs down on my throat, then
As soon as you start insisting that I smear mustard on your back,
right,
it's over. It's over.
That's right. It's got to be mayonnaise. I'm just saying, you got to put
I
the
know,
mayonnaise
right?
down
A
first.
little bit of cheese,
A little
and some
cheese,
kale,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a FEMA camp.
Exactly. Okay, well, we do have a quick commercial we need to get to, and then we'll be back in just a few moments.
Contact us by email at ppappodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter as at Packard Pokes At. Like us on Facebook.com/Packard Pokes At. Call our Google Voice and leave a message at 662-709-PPAP or 662-709-7727, and we will respond to it on the show. Friday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. Join us live at vonlive.tv/Packard Pokes At. During the show, you can share your thoughts with us by calling 857-216-3200 using PIN number 35368 or on uberconference.com/Packard Pokes At. For links to the stories, visit our show page at packardpokesat.wordpress.com. You can help support the show by purchasing merchandise from cafepress.com/Packard Pokes At or make a donation to the show at patreon.com/Packard Pokes At. If you can't afford any money, why not share the show with your friends and rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spreaker, and on YouTube. For everyone that shares and rates us, you kick ass!
Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus.
Tonight we have our advice from Mr. Priestley. I had to go and get him again, but the limo that we had set up for him wasn't available, so we had to go to the next stage. We had to get a tank, because he just...
What was wrong with the limo?
It got kind of blown up. I mean...
We spent all the money on that.
I know. Those rocket launcher things.
That's bullshit.
I know, right? Fortunately, Mr. Priestley was already out of the car, and he was in his bunker. So... but
well, at least the bunker's getting used, because that costs a lot of money, too.
Yes, it does.
Miss Beulah, do you have a letter from one of our loyal viewers?
Why, yes, we do, Mr. Priestley. Dear Mr. Priestley, my teenage daughter is pregnant. I suspect that my new husband, who happens to also be my late husband's brother, may be responsible. Do you have any advice on how I should handle the situation? As I'm afraid to lose my daughter and husband to the authorities. Sincerely, Confused in California.
Dear Confused, what you have here is quite a conundrum, but the Bible tells us what to do in this exact situation. According to Deuteronomy 22:29, then he must marry the young woman because he has violated her, and he will never be allowed to divorce her.
But, Mr. Priestley, wouldn't that be polygamy and incest?
Yes, it is. However, even though he is married, he must also marry the daughter according to 1 Kings 20:3. Thy silver and thy gold is mine, thy wives also and thy children, even the goodliest, are mine. So he should enjoy his wife and his niece's wife. Remember, boys and girls, Jesus wants to touch you.
Okay. Well, Mr. Priestley, wow.
It's a good thing he's in a bunker.
It's a good thing we keep him in a bunker. I don't think he'd survive out in the wild. So, Mr. Priestley, no, we just go sit in the tank. I'll take you back later. So, wow. What did you think of what he said there, Joe?
It's biblical
It is biblical, you know.
and appalling.
It is appalling. It really is appalling. Why does Mr. Priestley sound Oriental? We have a bad microphone on him, so.
Yeah, it's a bad microphone.
Bad microphone. Sorry. Hey, if you want to make sure the voice the microphone works, you got to donate to Packard Pokes At. It's at patreon.com/Packard Pokes At. So. We got to get out of here. I appreciate everybody that came to the short show. We'll be back next week with our regular longer show. And then the week after that, since this is a 5-week month, we get 2 long shows this week. And we have our discussion topic. So if you have an idea for something you want us to discuss, go to facebook.com/Packard Pokes At and give us some suggestions of what you want us to talk about. You got a couple weeks. Or you can email us at packardpokesat@gmail.com or ppapodcast@gmail.com and get us some suggestions of what you want to hear us discuss. And we would gladly entertain all your suggestions. Thank you, Joe, for joining me tonight, and we will be back next week. Until then, this has been Packard Pokes At. We just poked at your news.
And that's a wrap.